Assalamualaikum and good day to everybody. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are going to um, cover on a new topic, which is quality management. It is actually topic 8 in our syllabus. But if you are referring to the textbook, it is from chapter 24 from Ian Sommerville, 10th edition. Okay, so these are the topics that will be covered. This video will be in two parts. This is the first part, which is going to cover software quality, software standards, and also inspection. Okay. So when we are talking about software quality management, so it is actually focusing on trying to achieve required level of quality, related to the software product. And when you look at software quality management, we can look at in two perspectives. The first one is from the organization level, from the company level, and the second one is from the project level. So software quality management, when it is related, we are looking at from the organizational level, we are concerned whether that company or organization is following certain process and standards that is in order to achieve high quality software. And from a perspective of a slightly lower, smaller scope, which is at product level, project level, in one organization, maybe there are several projects running at the same time. So software quality management can also be looking at the project level, where we are concerned at ensuring that specific quality processes which is related to that project is being followed. All right. And normally, in order to achieve this, there should be a plan, which is called a quality plan for that particular project, where in that plan, we define the goal that the project is trying to achieve from the perspective of the software quality. And from there, once we have decided on the quality goals that is going to be achieved, from there, the processes and standard will be set. Okay, so what are the activities involved? So basically, the kind of activities are more on the checking side. You are going to check to ensure that the software development processes that have been planned are being followed. We are going to check whether the deliverables, the output that are being produced, is it consistent with the organizational standard? So certain organizations have their own standard. So is the output produced, is it following the organizational standards and the goal being set? Okay, and normally these are being done, the checking are being done by the quality team, which are independent from the development team. Okay, sometimes it can be done internally. Okay, there are a team from the same organization, or sometimes the checking are done by the international auditor outside of the organization. So quality management and software development come hand in hand. They are actually uh, it is done in parallel sometimes. It depends on the organization. So when the system is being developed, there are some deliverables, right? There are milestones that have been set. So that milestone, that deliverables, the output will be checked. Okay, so whatever being produced will be checked. So this is where quality management process come, and where in the beginning they decide the standard and procedure that they want to achieve, and then what are the plan that they are, then and each of the project they have the quality plan, so that they set the time, the scope, the processes that they are going to follow. Then they will perform the review. The review means they will perform the checking based on the standard and procedure. Right. So all this actually requires lots of time and effort. So planning is required. So quality planning, okay, the plan that you have to do in order to execute quality management processes. Okay, so you have to have the plan so that you can decide what product qualities you are trying to targeting. Qualities here is like what you have specified in your non-functional requirements. So it's actually referring to that. Okay, and in this plan, you have to decide how are you going to do the assessment, how are you going to check the deliverables, and then out of these product qualities, you need to define the most important one. Okay, so when you define the most important quality attributes, so which is referring to your non-functional requirement, so you can scope down the job. Okay, so that you don't have to test or evaluate so many items. Right, from there, because you have decided the quality attributes, you can plan the activities that will be required. And all this, you need to double check whether you need to follow any organizational standards, any standards from your organization, or maybe from the ministry that you need to follow, maybe certain government standards that you need to follow, okay, so that you can or if there is no standard available, maybe you would like to define a new standard. Right, so basically in the quality plans that you have, so these are the content. Okay, we have the product introduction, so this is referring to the product that the project is developing, and then the plans that the product is following, and then the process descriptions, okay, what process will be done, and then quality goals, what are the goals that you would like to achieve in this quality plan, and risk management. So I've mentioned earlier in project management, so normally risk management are being done so that you can smaller the scope of your task, because when you are focusing on certain risk, so the things that worries the customer and also the development team, so you can scope down what you need to check. Okay, so quality plan should be short and precise. Okay, I've mentioned that the document need to be precise, right? So if the quality plan is for a large organization, so a large project or a complex project, so of course you need to document it thoroughly so that you can record the progress of the quality processes that have been done. All right, and because this is a large project, people come and go, the different team members come and go, so in order, when you have this detailed documentation, at least the new person that come joining the project knows what's going on, okay, at which level the quality processes are being done. For a smaller system, um, the quality plan is actually, you don't need much lots of documentation, but it is good to establish the quality culture. So you want every member in that smaller team, for that smaller system development, knows what's going on, so that everybody have good practicing in ensuring quality. Okay, what is software quality? So software quality is actually very much related to the non-functional requirement that you have defined earlier when you learn about requirement engineering. Okay, so you want to achieve that quality that have been defined, which is referring to the non-functional requirement that you have decided. The issue with this quality requirement is because they are different focus from, for example, the customer quality requirement is different from the developer quality requirement. Of course, customer would like efficient system, reliable system, right? But from the perspective of developer, they would be more concerned about making the software more maintainable, because it's easier for them to manage it in the future. They want it to be reusable so that whenever they need to do any extension, they can reuse additional or previous programs, right? So because of the focus are different from the perspective of customer and developer are different, so you need to be clear of what are the quality that you would like to achieve, right? And of course, you have experienced this in writing requirements, sometimes it is ambiguous. Okay, so sometimes the way that you write it is more from the perspective of the developer rather than on the customer. So it's hard to achieve um, to to satisfy the requirement because it has different meaning from the perspective of customer and also from the developer. Okay, so when you are trying to achieve the quality software, so the focus is more on trying to achieve fitness for purpose, okay, rather than specification conformance. Specification conformance. What does that mean? To give you some idea what software fitness for purpose means, you are when you are trying to achieve the software quality that you have decided. So these are among the questions that you should be asking. Okay, you should be asking to achieve the software quality. You should be asking, is the software have been properly tested? Okay, can this software uh, run it can be run independently? Okay, it does not depend on so many items. If it need to be dependable, you need to be clear what is it dependent to. Okay, in terms of performance, is it acceptable? Is it usable? Is the documentation understandable? Or is the software, when you look inside, is it well structured? Is the way that they written the code is understandable? Does it follow certain standards in terms of programming during the development? Okay, so I mentioned about quality just now. So it is actually referring to the non-functional characteristics that you have defined earlier. Okay, so of course you don't want unreliable system or too slow, right? So those are actually, when you are referring to software quality, you are actually referring to the non-functional characteristics of your software. So in the same terms of the non-functional requirement is being applied again in greater details when you are dealing with software quality management. So when you are dealing with software quality management, the non-functional requirements are being called software quality attributes. It's still on security, on testability, is it in terms of efficiency. So the non-functional requirement during software quality management, it is being studied and being checked in greater details, right? Right. Again, in setting the software quality attributes, there are always conflict because um, if you set so many qualities to be achieved, sometimes it is conflicting to one another. For example, if you want a very robust system, you will lose the performance. Let's say if you design a system to be very usable, you have you have to reduce the level of security. Okay, because when you make a system very secure, you make the system very unusable. Why? After 2-3 minutes, the system log you out, and then you need to log in again. Okay, and then you need to reconfirm that that's you. Okay, so it is very unusable whenever you want to have the system with a higher level of security. Right? So I mentioned just now, when you are writing the quality plan, you need to identify the most important quality attributes, the most important non-functional requirement that you would like the software to achieve. Okay, from there, once you have defined this, so you can define the processes of assessment. If you decide that the important quality attributes that your system need to achieve is security, so the assessment that you need to design for this quality plan is mainly on security, okay, rather than on something else. Okay, when you are doing this, when you are checking on the quality management, you are basically concerning about the processes that have been followed during the production of the software. It means that during when you are doing the development, does the project development team is actually following certain processes, or that do they skip just to make the system running, and then they submit it for release. So we have to check whether during the production, does the development team following the processes that have been specified. Okay, so this issue is a little bit um, there is some complex relationship here, because sometimes, you know, when you are in the development team, so sometimes you depend on several programmers expertise. Okay, if they are not there, so maybe the project might be stopped. Okay, so this happened. Why do we need to check the processes during the development? Because of this issue. Okay, sometimes certain projects, especially small projects, are very dependent on individual skills. So if somebody else come in, so maybe the processes will be different. Okay, sometimes this issue of quality, product quality, depend on the processes, because sometimes, you know, because you are running out of time, you want to accelerate, you want to shorten the development schedule, so some of the processes might be skipped. Okay, so how do you ensure that the software have been produced in a to achieve its quality? Right. So whenever these are some of I think very logical explanation about how you like to produce a software which is a quality, but focusing more on the processes aspect. So before the development are being done, they define the processes first. Okay, if you want to develop the software, so what are the processes that you are going to do first? A, B, C, D, and so on. And then you develop the product. And then you assess the quality, you check the quality of the product. Okay, if it's okay, so you will you will follow that processes that you have decided. If it's not okay, so you will improve the processes that you have decided earlier. So this kind of development is more focused on ensuring the process are good. Okay, they suggest it first, and then they develop, and then they check the product quality. If it's good, so they will follow whatever the processes are. If it's not, they will modify some of the processes that they have defined earlier. So partly in ensuring everybody is having the same thought about quality is that you need to provide the culture. Okay, so you know, sometimes people you like to finish the job early so that they produce the output but not following the processes, or sometimes they are producing the product, the software following their own style. So you need, as the quality manager, you need to create a culture. Okay, so that's why normally you need to define what are the processes so that everybody can follow. So especially the new ones, if they are new to the organization, they don't know how to go about completing certain tasks, right? So by providing them with the processes so they can follow. And then you need to ensure that the team take the responsibility of the quality of producing a quality products. Okay, so everybody are actually together in producing the work, not one or two people only, right? And you need to encourage all the team members to try to produce quality software, right? So ensure that it is in their culture, even though nobody is checking. Everybody knows how to do it, and we want to ensure that the quality software have been produced. Okay, so one way of achieving this quality is through following certain standards. Um, so the common standard for software is ISO 9001. Okay, why do we need to follow this standard? Because you know this standard has been revised several times, and it is actually the best practice. Um, and it has defined to you what are the required attributes, what are the required non-functional requirement that is needed, and it also identify to you what is the role of the management, the company management, in ensuring the standard are being achieved. Okay, standard can be internationally, national, organization, or project standard. Okay. So I mentioned just now, why do we have to follow standards? Because it is a best practice. You don't want to repeat the same mistakes done in the previous project. Okay, and then it clearly define to you what quality means in certain particular setting from the organization view and so. So it's basically it's like a schema that you can follow, and then it's good for continuity. Why? Because new stuff comes, and then they know how to follow the culture of that organization. So standards come in two form. For this, one is for product, another one is process. So standards for products are mainly related to the product itself. Okay, for example, the structure of the requirement uh, documents for that product. Okay, what are the standards for programming that you need to follow in order to produce that product, for example. So process standards, on the other hand, is related to the processes that the developer team follow. All right, for example, what are the process that you follow for specification, designing? If you are using certain tools, what are the suitable tools that you should be using, and so on. Okay, so these are some of the ideas to differentiate between product standard and process standard. So process standard, as I mentioned, is related to the processes that you follow in doing certain tasks. For example, process to conduct design review. If you want to conduct certain review, what are the process? Okay, if you want to do test recording, let's say you want to record the testing, so what are the processes? Okay, on the other hand, product standard are related to the product itself. For example, if you want to capture the requirement, so what are the structure that you need to follow? If you want to change, how do you handle changes in the software? All right, so you have change request form. So these are very related to product, whereas this is related to the processes that the team is following. Okay, the problem with these standards is that it is sometimes not up to date. Okay, like for me myself, I've been following this ISO um, standards. These ISO standards are being reviewed every 5 years. Okay, so if you know about that standard, maybe at the end of the 5 years, so by the time the next year, for example, they will come up with some updates. All right, and if we want to follow this to achieve um, these standards, you need to follow a lots of documentation. Okay, following certain aspect that they want. Right, if you do not follow that, so maybe you are not um, you do you are not accredited. Okay, you are not achieving the standards, and because of the lots of documentation involved, so you need software, and sometimes the software outside there does not follow the standard. And these standards are actually being developed by the practitioner outside, meaning people from the industry. Yeah, after certain time they've been practicing the processes, then they document it so that everybody else can share. They can share it with other people. Okay, and the standards are actually very detailed, and lots of clerical information. That is what we are experiencing when we try to achieve ISO. In UUM, we achieve ISO 9001. This is actually a very general standards, okay, that organization actually applied when it is related to design, development, maintain of product and products, not only software but also other products in general. So basically, it provides you with a framework. Framework is more like a big picture of everything. So inside it, it describe you must it describe the processes that you need to follow. If this is for your organization, what are the standard that the organization will like to set? Okay, so all this documentation that will be produced at the end of the day is actually specifically for that organization. So it is an organizational quality manual. It's a quality manual for the entire organization, right? ISO itself is actually very big, but for this slide, we are only going to look at some of the main item, that is what are the processes defined in ISO 9001. Okay, related to product delivery, there are some processes defined for design and development. Okay, if you are performing tests, what are the processes? If you are trying to market the product, it is for production and also for delivery. So what are the processes? Okay, so in supporting the product, so what are the other remaining processes which is important for that organization? There are business management processes, supplier. So if you have a supplier for certain of your services, so what are the processes involved? So how do you manage your inventory? How do you manage different versions of your software? So all these are actually being processes defined for you. So as a start, if you want to make your system organization is following certain standards, this is the generic ISO that you can follow. So in ISO 9002, so I mentioned just now, it is actually helping to produce organizational quality manual. Okay, in that organization, there are many projects, right? Project 1 will have its own quality manual, quality plan. Project 2 will have its own quality plan, and then all together, all this will become project quality management. Okay, so this is the overall plan to achieve the uh, quality management for all of the projects, right? For UAM, for example, after you have followed this ISO 9001, there is an external body that will go and check whether do you actually follow the processes that you have claimed uh, uh, in order to get accreditation to pass ISO 9001. Okay, so we have to define for each of the processes. We have these processes defined, including the form that you need to fill in and the kind of reporting that you have to produce. Okay, so there will be an external body that will come to the organization to check. So in UGM is also like that. Okay, ISO 9001 certification is inadequate because it defines quality to be the conformance of the standard. Actually, outside there, if you go and Google under ISO, there is hundreds of standards available out there, which is more specific. Okay, so it says here it is inadequate because it is more of checking whether the organization is following the standard. Okay, it takes no account of quality of the experience of the user. Okay, it does not check the user. Okay, because to check the experience of the user is another standard itself. Okay, so I've mentioned just now, in under ISO there are actually other standards to check for different things, but ISO 9001 is the general one, just to ensure that the organization is actually following the standards that it has defined. Okay, now let's look at reviews and inspection. So why we are looking at reviews and inspection? Uh, because in achieving a quality management, the way to check it is through review and also inspection. Inspection, I think you have come across about inspection when you are looking at software testing. Okay, inspection is actually one way of performing testing. Okay, and in achieving quality also, this is the way, the method to achieve or to check the quality of the software. Okay, so basically there will be a group of examiners that will check for any potential problems. Okay, for example, software or documents before it is being signed off, meaning that somebody mentioned that it is achieving its quality, so it need to be checked by this group of people. Okay, during the review, they will either check whether is there any defect, and if it's there, they want to remove it. And also, it will check on the progress of the assessment. So from time to time, they want to check whether is the 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 software or the process have been updated. All right, and also on the quality reviews. Okay, quality reviews is more like checking the codes, specification. All right. Okay. How do they provide the review or the inspection? Okay, so these are the processes that happen. Of course, it will start with a pre-review. Pre-review is basically things that happened before. Okay, the planning, how when the reviewer is coming, so when will it be done, what are the resources that you need to allocate, who do you want to involve. Okay, so if there are some documentation involved, so you need to prepare it, and then the person that will be reviewed, involved in the reviews, for example, the programmer, the project manager involved it to do preparation already. Okay, maybe they need to sort out the documentation, the codes, okay, the results, the output that they have been producing, they need to get it ready. All right. So during and then the review meeting is happening. Okay. So the reviewer, the examiner come, then they can go and check throughout the documents, and then if they find any error, they will highlight it, and then you need to suggest, and then you need to do improvement, and after that they will come again, or they will check again whether you have done the improvement or not. So nowadays the reviews are done in the distributed manner. Okay, the normal way is that the examiner come to the organization, right? So nowadays, because of the pandemic, the reviews are done in the distributed manner. They do it through WebEx, where all the documentations are actually put in the cloud. Okay, so the reviewer actually go and check it, right? And then they perform face-to-face meeting online, and then they review it together. And whenever they have any comments, they will document it. Okay, it's like that. And also and during the reviews, you can actually check it without running the system. Okay, they will check it through the documentation. Okay, they will check the requirement, check the design. Okay, and they can also highlight the errors without running the code. Okay, this is specifically on the checking of the program. and when the reviewer or examiner is performing the checking, normally they have the checklist, okay, so that they do not miss any of the important items. So they will check, if they are checking on the programming side, so they have their own checklist related to the programming. Okay, so the checklist not only for programming, it can be involved of checking the data faults, possible fault that can happen on data, if they want to check the control, in terms of the looping. So there are these sets of questions that the examiner will have next to them when they are going through the codes. Okay, they will check for the outputs. Okay, we check on the variables and so on. And then this is checking on the interface faults. Interface is not referring to user interface, but more on the methods of the system. We'll check related to the storage. Okay, does it so these are the kind of questions that the examiner or reviewers is having, so that they do not miss any important. To sum up what we have covered so far just now, so when we are looking at software quality management, it is actually a more broader, it's actually a broader processes, rather than when compared to software testing. When you do software testing, you are ensuring that the system is functioning, is following requirements. But when you are dealing with software quality management, you are also checking the processes that are being followed during the development, and it is also another way of checking the non-functional requirement or the software quality that have been decided earlier. Okay, so that is an important term to differentiate between software quality management and also software testing. Testing is actually a subset of software quality management. Okay, and then one way of performing this software quality management is through review. Okay, there's a specialized team that will check the deliverables to ensure that whatever being produced, whatever being in terms of the process and also in terms of the product, does it follow the organization standards, international standards. Okay, so to ensure that the product that have been produced is actually will be accepted uh, by the customer, right? And when you are doing the review, not only that you check on the process, okay, but you also when it is, you can also do program inspection where you actually check in the documentation, the codes that have been developed to ensure that it is following the standard set by the organization. Right, thank you.